week 6 briefly, Archie and Archimate, and focus on the week 6 part 2 assignment. This is the first big assignment that we have. So it helps to have some of the language and training and format and grammar stuff in the back of your mind to help you on this paper. I really hope that you get that you do well, you get a good grade on part 2. It's the biggest chunk of writing you're gonna take in this entire saga of 5 or 6 different assignments. Okay, then you're gonna add a section on security, and you're gonna add a section on regulatory compliance. Then you're gonna migrate to the cloud, and you're gonna open up new markets in China and India and the EU. You're gonna be busy, okay? But fortunately, you just have to write about it. Other people have to do the real heavy lifting. So, all right, so we did the first video. The benefits of common modeling language, the major elements of Archimate, and how to be competent with Archie. I've told you that I'm ambivalent about Archie, okay? I think it's great if you're going to be an enterprise architect. If you're going to work on this and you want to dive into it, go ahead. But it is a big sink for your time. I would rather you learn TOGAF and learn the ADM process and use some of the prefabricated documents that are already there in Archie, and not have to worry about that part of the assignment, okay? Because I'm not making Archie experts here, okay? I am trying to help you be good writers. I am trying to help you understand the only major framework that's out there. But having read Kutuzov, we have a suspicion that maybe this may not be the only way of doing this work. We're going to look at other things to do that, okay? So, here's a good resource to consult. If you feel like you're completely mystified at what this whole ADM clockwork yellow thing is all about, here's a document that says, a practitioner's approach for developing enterprise architecture following the TOGAF ADM. It's a few pages, okay? About 100 pages long, okay? Now, you can read TOGAF. It's only 492 pages, okay? Now, I will tell you that the ADM is like, yeah, it's the first 6 chapters, 66 pages, okay? And you can get this, you can download version 9.2. It's on the special supplementary files. There's a PDF that I created that you can have, all right? You have a bunch of questions that say, I must have been playing with my cat with this. Okay, all right. You have to know the inputs and the outputs from these various stages. Okay? Now you can spend hours looking them up in the spec, but if some wonderful person created a diagram that has the outputs, or the inputs in red and the outputs in green, that might be helpful, wouldn't it? Okay. Now, it's a really bad. I mean, you gotta look at it real closely. My eyes are kind of broken, but I can zoom in and find it. So both of those are found in the supplemental file. So I click on this, and these are in the document online, and here's the whole thing. And like I said, it's about 100 pages, okay? And then, I know none of you believe that these things really exist. You've been at DU too long, right? It's just some mumbo jumbo the professor's throwing at you. So I'm going to double click all these things, and all right. And if you zoom in, Even Professor Bauer can read it, okay? And you'll notice there are some questions right on the assignment. What are the inputs from this? What are the outputs from that? And you plug and chug, okay? Because I'm not trying to get you to memorize the spec, okay, but understand the activities. All right, we continue. The visual paradigm video, they're pretty helpful in that area. The ArchiMate video is helpful as well. But again, I said this, if you can't get something out of ArchiMate after a few hours, quit. Work with the existing diagrams. The PowerPoint that's been decoupled, that you can grab just the graphic from, will explain many of the things. Okay? Let me also say this. 5 diagrams is great. 10 diagrams, I'm getting tired of you. Okay? 15, this relationship's in trouble. 20, we're sleeping in separate beds. It's over. All right? I'm calling a lawyer, okay? Use the diagrams judiciously. Always introduce. The following diagram shows the new relationship from the 3 insurance companies and how they'll work as a merged entity. And then after that, figure 4, you identify it. And then after that, you say, as the diagram above illustrates, by consolidating these 3 activities, we're going to see a reduction in force, an increase in efficiencies. You're going to be able to process. In other words, there are various metrics that show this is a smart thing to do. Okay, so keep that in mind. Okay. All right, something that I need to give you. There's a guy named Stephen Covey who talks a lot about organizing your life. And he's written a bunch of different books about this. But one of the things that he mentions in a lot of his books is begin with the end in mind. All right? And ArchiSurance is the example. I don't think Stephen Covey ever came near to ArchiSurance. That's why he's a happy man. But keep in mind, that was a joke, keep in mind that you're not just doing this assignment for week 6. Just like you weren't just doing week 4's outline, okay? If you have to change the outline when you get it back, and I didn't get to finish all the grades because I was preparing for this today, but you should have them tomorrow, Friday, or Thursday at the latest. But you have to change the outline, that's fine. We'll work an outline out together, okay? It's not that important. But keep in mind that part 1 is going to be connected to part 2. And guess what part 2 is going to be connected to? Part 3, and 4, and 5, and 6. So if I write real sloppy, and I start talking about security, and that's really not the paragraph, in week, I think it's 7 or 8, there's a whole section on security you have to write. All right, so I change my table of contents. Where's security going to go? Probably at the end of ADM. Instead of having security for each one of those 4 things and having to cut a little piece in for each one, just put it right at the last part. Easy, okay? And then there's something about regulatory compliance. Maybe we'll put that at the end of this. And cloud. And AI, and a bunch of other things, okay? In other words, you know what really happened? The CEO from ArchiSurance travels all over the world. And he comes back flying business class, right? They got the really nice in-flight movies and the in-flight reading material. And there's a whole magazine on digital transformation, and another one on AI, and another one on cloud. And this guy reads all these books. And on Monday, he walks in and he tells the whole staff, guess what, boys? We're going to the cloud. Or guess what? We're going to, you know, and they all go crazy. And, you know, he gets death threats on Facebook, you know, because, you know, nobody works like this except this guy, okay? So anyway, I would not invest in this company. Just we were talking about it earlier. Okay, so your structure, your build with the end, in other words, 5 or 6 pieces of this are going to be all combined together. So you write tight. Don't wander. Don't meander into other subjects. Just do security. Just do cloud. Just do regulatory. I mean, and keep it focused on that area. That way you can combine all these blocks together and they will, and you also use the UCOL template that your darling and dearly respected professor just gave you. And if you take every template and every assignment and you write every assignment in the same template, what's going to happen when you merge them all? They're all going to be in the same font, in the same margins, in the same footnote. And it's going to be wonderful. It's going to be glorious. You're going to get more sleep. All right? And that's our goal in life, right? Is getting more sleep. All right, so you need a good abstract, and that abstract will change, right? Because you're going to say, in addition to the ADM, we're going to talk about security. And then in the next abstract, in addition to the ADM, we're going to talk about security and also migration to the cloud. So the abstract will get a little bit longer, but it's still a paragraph. All right? That's why the table of contents is so important, because you're going to be adding things to it. You don't want to create a whole new table of contents, right? So you just copy one of the lines, copy, paste, and there, and then you put your new one there, change the number. Nobody knows, okay? But you do, and you'll get more sleep. And that's, again, that's our goal. So keep that in mind, okay? And we talked about the scaffolding, how to identify the descriptions. We went over all of this in the writing section. Here is the assignment. We turn it into deliverables by highlighting all the action verbs and the requirements. We turn it into a scaffold. That's our writing. Now, at least 9 paragraphs. That sounds like a lot, okay? But if you're writing good C paragraphs, statement, explanation, example. Right after an introduction, after a conclusion, few tables in there and things like that. Think about the diagrams. You got to have a diagram for the ADM. That's a little yellow, ball thing, and you gotta talk about the process, the inputs and outputs, and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of diagrams that'll work there. Okay. Don't make them fill the page. Okay. You can expand them. Try to keep them about the margin of the page. You don't want them little micro things, but you don't want them, writing down 3 or 4 pages. Okay. All right. UCOL assignment, style guide, etc., etc. We all know and respect that. Good abstract, good table of contents. If you have, if you really want to impress the old 168-year-old professor, you not only have the table of contents, but you have all the diagrams. What do you have? You have a table of figures. Figure 1, you identify. Figure 1, the TOGAF model. Figure 2 is, da 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 da. You just, it's just wonderful. I feel happy. I used to call my students philotechnon, which is in Greek means my little children. But then someone said, it's really condescending, and I said, okay, fine. All right. Everyone's got an issue with something. Your grandmother said, my little child. You'd say, thanks, Granny. Can you make me some spaghetti now? So anyway, get the template, use it, get help proofing. You got some ways to go with this. Remember, the rubric is your friend. Here's the rubric, and this is what you have to do. Okay? If you don't understand what you have to do, I've spelled it out. All right? And the last 2 on integration of sources and grammar mechanics, I put together since they're very similar. Okay? All right, and also ran out of space on the slide. All right, I could have gone into 4-point type, but that wouldn't have been helpful. All right, these will change with additional modifications for the next phases of the case study. All right, some of the assignments are only on security. But then week 10, you have to take that assignment and merge it into all 6 pieces. So use the template. All right? Don't introduce any new variables or fonts or tricks or margins or whatever, so that you're building with the end in mind, right? You're using modular components. You do this in object-oriented programming. You take code snippets and you put, so you get the same action each time that you want that particular attribute or action to fire. Okay, so the end state is to be able to coherently and logically blend them into the final paper. All right, now, if you want to take it higher, I want you to answer the question that Katusev would ask. Was it worth it? Okay? It's a complex set of things. Honestly, no one in their right mind should ever do this. All right? I'd throw them in jail for stupid, for being fast and stupid. You know, it could be slow and stupid, at least you slow it down. But if you're fast and stupid, you hurt a lot of people and lose a lot of money really quickly. All right? We have 10 weeks to blow this company up, and we're going to succeed. But I would like for you to pull the lens back, if you have time, that last paragraph, and how effective is this? Is TOGAF like inside baseball? You know, there are people who know baseball statistics, and it's like a religion. You know, what's his batting average when there are 2 runners out in the 4th inning or later? You know, and all these things, and you talk about baseball, and no one understands that. And sometimes this kind of TOGAF stuff and Archimate is an insider game. Okay, it may be helpful for the tech department to do the architecture on and make sure they've covered everything. Okay, but when you go to introduce this to the C-suite, I wouldn't get caught dead with an Archimate diagram. You know, I said, look, if you want to look at the business relationships and how we made sure that everything is taken care of, yeah, we've got some slides in the back of this deck. Feel free to look them over. I'll explain them to you, but I'm going to put you to sleep. But it has to be done, but that doesn't mean everyone has to look at it. If you communicate that way, then you get trust and you don't put people to sleep. Okay, so keep that in mind. Is TOGAF helpful? We're going to look at other frameworks, even rolling your own framework. Some of the Fortune 50 international companies don't use any architectural framework for enterprise architecture. How does Ford survive? Ain't on TOGAF. How does Daimler-Benz survive? Not on TOGAF. Okay? How about Huawei? Not on TOGAF. All right, so how about Tata? Great manufacturer. They don't have enterprise architecture in TOGAF. So it's not the only game in town. So keep that in mind. Why or why not is this thing helpful? Okay.